In this video, I'm going to show you some of the best Facebook custom audiences or retargeting audiences that you can create and use in your ad campaign. Some of them are more useful than others, but I'll kind of point out and give some commentary on each of the different ones we create in this video. So first, if you don't know how to get to Facebook audiences, you click this little All Tools button here. Normally, you're probably hanging out in Ads Manager. You just click Audiences, and you'll come here. So first, how do you make a custom audience? So you do create audience here. There's 4 different types, really. You'll pretty much never be dealing with a special ad audience unless you're doing like political ads or housing ads. There's a few different categories that are protected. Don't worry about that one. Saved audiences are cold targets. So you could save an audience if you use it very regularly. I think I have one of these in here. Basically, it's like a targeting people who like pop music in certain countries. It's kind of more of a convenience feature, not a retargeting feature. Now, there's also custom audiences, which are the retargeting audiences. So this is actually like, think of it as like a bucket of people that did a certain thing related to your brand. They interacted with you in some way on Facebook or on your website, or a few other different types of methods. That most of this video is going to focus on custom audiences, and lookalikes use custom audiences. So lookalike audiences are strangers to you, but Facebook will use the data from your custom audiences to generate a list of people from 1 to the last person on Facebook, so 1 to like 3 billion, of how close they are to that custom audience. Not the focus of this video. I have a video here, although it's a little bit older, that goes over it. So first, let's go custom audiences, because that's the focus of this video. And we're going to go to the custom audience source. And there's a whole bunch of stuff here. I guess first we'll go over the Instagram and Facebook page audiences. So I'll do Instagram first, and I'll click next. So here I have Andrew Southworth. That's the Instagram page I'm talking about in this particular creation. You have a whole bunch of options. So anyone who engaged with this account, so that includes, well, they actually list it, took action on a post or an ad, likes, comments, saves, carousel swipes, button taps, or shares. And then going down the list, it kind of gets more and more nitty gritty. So people who visited the profile, my Instagram profile, people who engaged with any post or ad, people who sent a message or a DM, and then people who saved any post or ad. So you can kind of get a little granular with this. Just keep in mind, if you only have like 1,000 Instagram followers, you probably just want to do everyone who engaged. If you're doing everyone who sent a message, depending on the size of your Instagram and how long it's been around, that might only be like 15 people or something, depending on your situation. But if you have a larger Instagram account, then using some of these ones can be better because they'll be more targeted. And then you can choose the date range. Very often, you're going to choose the max for on Facebook audiences. It's 365 days. You'll see when we do websites in a little bit that the limit is 180. So, I'll just do everyone who engaged with this professional Instagram account. You can include more people, and then you can stack different things. You can also exclude people, and then you can stack different things. So if you wanted to do like people who engaged, people who saved a post or an ad, but not people that DM'd you for whatever reason, you could do that. Basically, just kind of think about what combinations of people would make sense for you. Audience name, description, then you would just create the audience. Now, where this can be useful is, let's say you just came out with a new song and a music video, you put the whole video on Facebook, and you're running video view campaigns on it. Instead of just targeting cold people, which is also good, you want to kind of re-engage people that are already interacting with you. And this is a nice broad audience, that everyone who engaged with this professional account. Just hit up everyone who's engaged with your profile. It's fairly cheap, and it can be a good way to kind of hit people up again and again. So this is one of the audiences you could use in a video view campaign like that. And I'm going to reference that example of video view campaign a couple times. Now, very similarly, I can go create audience, custom audience, and I can do Facebook page. And this is essentially going to give me the same options. Cool, now I have my page selected. So very similar options here. You can do essentially everything you did in the other one. Couple nuances though. Facebook pages have a button on top. That's called a call to action. And that's what this one is. And then also people who currently like or follow your page, you can target them. There used to be a different way to do this, but this is, if you want to target all your Facebook followers, this is what you would do. You can't do this for Instagram, unfortunately, but that's neither here nor there. So same things apply, date range. And by the way, like the reason why you might consider doing a shorter date range is if you want to hit up people who engage with you more recently. A year ago, someone just engaged with your page a year ago, that's kind of a light interaction. They might have completely forgotten who you are at this point. So depending on the size of your audience, if you have a really, really big audience, you might shrink this down to like 60 days, 90 days, and test it, and then compare it to a 365 audience to see if it's better or worse. Usually I'm just leaving it to max, and I just let, when I run the Facebook campaign, Facebook will kind of sort it out. But yeah. And then you would also use this audience, kind of like the retargeting example I mentioned, hitting people up with your new music video as a video view campaign, or let's say you drop a new piece of Instagram content and you want to just show everyone in your kind of main casual pool of people that post. You could do an engagement campaign or also a video view campaign to hit those people up, multiple times. Let's say you drop 2 posts a week, you might run a very small ad campaign on every single Instagram post you do, let's just say $10, and just hit up these two audiences. So Facebook general engagement, Instagram general engagement, and I keep doing that. So those are kind of very coarse, broad, wide levels of interaction. I think from here we'll go into the video view audiences, because these can be very broad and can be used. I don't know why that just didn't do what I asked it to do. And there we go. That time it worked. So if Facebook ever does something weird on you, like Facebook's not perfect, there's glitches everywhere. Like something's really strange, consider just refreshing the page, because it happens more often than you'd think. So here I created a new custom video audience, or video engagement custom audience. I can choose engagement, and I get all these different criteria. And there's a lot of different things you can do with this. On one hand, typically when you're running a video view campaign, you're running a through play campaign. That's the only way you can optimize a video view campaign, by people who watch 15 seconds of your video. So this is kind of like, you could, like, these are technically more broad, but I wouldn't really mess with these for most applications. I would go with through plays, because that's, they watch at least 15 seconds of your video. It's a low commitment, but it's not like nothing. Especially if you're doing shorter content, like Instagram content, that might be 25 or 50% of your video. It depends. So this, essentially what you do here is you do choose videos, and then choose your Facebook page. If you have multiple, it might default to the wrong one. You can also do Instagram. You can do by ad campaign and video ID. Normally you're just going to choose Facebook or Instagram. And then you just go through here and you just very laboriously choose your video. So if you're doing just through play, you might just want to go in and choose every single video that's over 15 seconds that you've done in the last year. Depending, maybe there's videos you want to exclude, like maybe I want to exclude those videos. These videos are a little bit longer, those are short, and then this might take you like 10 minutes to go through and just choose the videos that you want. One thing I recommend is that after you get like 20 or 30, you might just click confirm, and then save your audience, and then go back in and edit it, because sometimes it glitches out. You might have just gone through 150 videos, you go to save it, and it just glitches, and then you have to start from scratch. I recommend kind of saving it from time to time. So, same thing with date ranges apply. You might want to go more recent if you have a really big audience. Typically, you're just going to leave it broad. Give it a name. Give it a nice name, by the way. Some people give very bad names to their custom audiences. You want to give it a name you're going to remember it by, because when you go to use this in your ad campaign, you're just really going to see the name and the size, and if you have a really confusing name, you're going to struggle. So that's like the through play audience, but there's something really cool you can do with this as well. So I'll do create audience, custom audience, video. And this is why video audiences can be really great, is because you can segment people by how long they watched your video. So if you're running a longer, let's say a whole music video campaign, and you've done this, multiple times, you might want to retarget people who watch 50%, 75%, 95% of your video. And if your video is 3 minutes, that's a much deeper engagement. So I'd recommend let's say 50. If you have a 3-minute video, it's a minute and a half of video. You go through and do choose videos and choose all the videos that are at a longer length. Like, I wouldn't mix in 15-second, 30-second videos. If you're going to do an audience like this, try to keep all the videos on the longer side, because otherwise the 50% really means nothing. So choose either all your long music videos. If you have live streams, they'll be in there too. Or if you just have shows that you put online, add all those videos in, and then you can retarget anyone who watch 50% of your videos. Now, technically, this isn't people who watched half your videos. It's people who were watching at the 50% mark. So if someone skips through your video, they'll be counted. But most of the time, this is really just people who watched half of your video. And you might consider making multiple of these. So you go in, choose all your videos, save it. Go through 75%, choose all your videos, save it. 95%, choose all your videos, save it. It's very time consuming, but for the most part, you only do this once until you, maybe every couple months, when you add new videos, you go back in and just add the new videos. You can update this. You don't have to do it from scratch every single time. You just add new videos. And that way, when you go to do an ad campaign later, when you make these audiences, you'll get a size estimate. So like if I go to IG messages, that one's actually less than 1,000. If I look at ARS IG page engagers 365, I have like 100,000 people. Facebook page 25,000, and then I have a few 95, 75% audiences that are of different sizes. You can see like these particular music videos, 75%. I have like 6,500 people in that audiences. So as long as it's over 1,000, you'll get some kind of range. So just keep that in mind. Like depending on what you're doing, like if you see your 50% is like a few thousand people, and your 95% is just below 1,000. I probably wouldn't do the 95% because it's probably going to be too few people to test out in its own ad set later on. By the way, I will show you where you put these custom audiences at near the end of this video. But let's go on to our next custom audiences. So that covers video. There's a lot you can do with it. Like video is a great way to separate, the boys from the men, so to speak. The people who have seen you once versus the people who watched all of your video. That's kind of an easy, cheap way to run a campaign and then split people up by how interested they were. Now, we're not going to cover like shopping, instant experience, lead form, on Facebook listings, or events. Well, we'll do events. We're not going to cover these other three though, because they're kind of niche. You're not probably not going to use them. Events you might. We're going to do website and customer lists last. So I'll just show you events really briefly. If you make events on your page, you can retarget people who have interacted in whatever way. Like this is a pretty good selection of ways people can interact with an event. And if you regularly are making events because you're regularly playing shows, which I have talked to several people who that has been the case, if you're promoting a new show, this would be a great custom audience to use. You can even go in and choose specific events to retarget people for. So like let's say you played a city a year ago, or maybe not a year ago because you can only go back a year, let's say 6 months ago, that's the same place you're playing again. You could, select that event and then just retarget anyone that responded to it because, hey, we're coming back, So that's pretty cool. So now let's go to two of the more interesting ones. Customer list I'll cover briefly. So if you have an email list, there might be a way to integrate with Facebook directly on your email list, meaning you'll actually connect your email provider like Drip, or maybe MailChimp has it, ActiveCampaign. There's a whole bunch. Sendinblue probably has it. Most email providers I found have some kind of Facebook integration. And what they do is you can, like, let's say you have a list, or you can tag people, or you have a way to segment your audience into different buckets of people. You can usually save those buckets as their own little custom audiences. You can retarget people by email, and it's not perfect, but it is a good option, especially now that with iOS 14, more pixel events are being missed. So even if your website doesn't, your email provider doesn't have a way to integrate directly, you can just upload an email list. So you can, there's a template you can download, but like if your email list lets you download a CSV, typically you'll just be able to upload it directly. And you would, when it gets onto here, you can choose a bunch of parameters to map it correctly. But if your email provider has a direct integration, that will be better. And I have a few here powered by Drip. So like on my Shopify store, I can link people who have downloaded free products, people who have got any products, people who have bought like paid products. And then I can also do the same thing for like my course sales, anyone who's bought my Spotify or YouTube Growth Machine courses. And then I also have people who haven't bought it, but I've ran marketing email campaigns to them that I put in here separately just in case I want to use that audience later. I haven't used it yet. But sometimes it's nice to make these in anticipation to save yourself the hassle when you want to do that campaign. So now we'll do create audience, and we'll get into another big section. This is one of the most interesting ones, and that's website. So this one here, usually this will show the name of the pixel. I don't know why I just shown the number. But there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do here. Now, in this particular instance, 180 days. Of course, my keyboard dies mid-video. 180 days is the max. So if you do 200, value must be less than 180. So do 180. And if you just have a website, you're not doing conversion campaigns like I've talked about in so many videos. I'll link to a playlist here with like my Spotify campaigns. If you're not doing that, this is fine to do. In fact, even if you are doing that, this might be good, but I would split it up further. So like if you're not doing that stuff, this is just going to be everyone that visited your website, assuming your website has a pixel installed. And I do have a Facebook pixel video, which I'm doing this a lot, but I'll link to a video right there. So, let's say you're doing all website visitors, that's fine, you would save that and probably make that audience anyways. But let's say you want to do it a little more granular. So a page view is, if you just leave this alone, it should be all website visitors as well in most cases. But you can refine it further by URL/parameter. And let's say you only want to do one particular website. So you can do it by contains, equals, doesn't contain. So let's say your website is on andrewsouthworth.com, but you don't want to include your store. You want to do that separately. I probably wouldn't do that. But let's say you don't want to include your toned and landing pages. So by URL contains andrewsouthworth.com, and then click this here. And then I can do and also URL doesn't contain if my landing pages were music.andrewsouthworth.com. I'll do music.andrewsouthworth.com. And then so it's like if it contains andrewsouthworth.com, but it doesn't contain music.andrewsouthworth.com, I believe this would work. And I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure this would work because it's going to exclude anything that matches this whole thing and contain anything that contains this thing. So this should exclude all your landing pages and do all your website. Now, if I wanted to just do my store, I would do shop.andrewsouthworth.com, and that would definitely not get my landing pages. It would just get people who have visited any page on my store in the past 180 days. And that would be a useful campaign for you to do. And then you would just give it a name, save it, etc. There are reasons why you might do different view durations or retention durations here. Let's say you're running a sale and you want to purposefully exclude people who have visited your site in the last couple of weeks or whatever, or only target people who have visited in the past 2 weeks so you can hit them up again and be like, hey, you were just on our site, here's a coupon code. And then in that case, you would do like exclude people who have purchased. So you can, like, as you can see, this can get kind of ridiculous pretty fast. So let me just reset this and we'll come back in and get a fresh perspective. So create custom audience website. If you're doing a toned in thing, so you have a toned in landing page, you're going to be using view content. And so if we choose our pixel, choose view content, do 180 days, and then refine by URL/parameter. Now you can put in like my one of my landing pages, I think for toned in is td.generastudios.com. And what this is going to let me retarget anyone who has fired a view content conversion on any of my toned in pages in the past 180 days, but it's not going to include, a whole bunch of other stuff. I could go further and exclude out, like I think this would technically include my Shopify store for my Genera Studio sample pack business. So I could go and exclude that. That would be a decision I'd make later. But if you're doing this for Hyped It, you wouldn't do that. You would go in and choose Hyped It Smart Link Click, 180 days, and then URL parameter. And you actually probably wouldn't have to do URL parameter here. But at least because like nothing else is going to trigger Hyped It Smart Link Click. The reason why you have to do it for toned in is because view content is also used by Shopify, and you might also use it on your website because it's a standard event. But Hyped It Smart Link Click, it's only used by Hyped It. So you could just save this out, and then you could retarget anyone that's converted on a Hyped It Smart Link page in the past 180 days, which is cool. So we'll reset out, kind of refresh the page, click website, then come back in, and let's talk about a different scenario. You could do visitors by time spent, people who visited specific pages. You could do a whole bunch of things with regard to purchase. So purchase, initiate checkout. If you wanted to do lead, that would be pretty much anyone that joined your mailing list, assuming you fire that event when they join your mailing list. If you have a Shopify store, then all those purchase events will happen automatically. So there's a ton you can do with this. And as I mentioned the use case before, it can be very useful if you have a very active store to segment things out by date ranges, because you can do subtractions later on. And I think this is a good transition to show you how you actually add this stuff in a campaign. All right, so I just came back to Ads Manager, and I'm going to just create a random campaign. Don't worry about the details of this. I'm just doing this to show you where you put the stuff in. So when you create a new campaign of any type, you're going to start out here, click on the ad set level after you set up your the campaign level. Choose your pixel and all that. But where you add these audiences into this custom audiences section. So you just click in this little box and go to custom audience, and you're going to see all your custom audiences. So let's say, for example, I wanted to target people who visited the purchase page for my Spotify Growth Machine course, which link in the description if you want to see how I promote my music on Spotify. If I wanted to retarget people who visited in the past 180 days, but for whatever crazy reason, I want to exclude people who visited in the past 60 days. This is probably something I would never do. Because, I guess if, since this audience, people drop off after 180 days, this would be an audience where, I'm making sure I hit them up before the 180 days is over so that they don't get lost. But I'm not bothering hitting up these people because they still have another, 120 days before they leave the audience. So I guess there is a reason why you would run this. But, this is an example of doing subtractions. I'm excluding people from the past 60 days, targeting people for past 80. So I'm really just hitting people between 60 and 180 days ago. So think of all the ways you might do this, especially if you're doing a time limited sale. You might exclude people that purchased in the past 2 weeks because they've already been in your sale, but retarget anyone that purchased for the past 180 days. So you're hitting up people who purchased in the past, but not in the direct recent time period. So there's a lot you can do with that, and there's a lot you can do with all of these audiences. This video has already gone long enough, but if you enjoyed it, I do have a whole playlist of stuff you can check out with regards to Facebook ads to promote your music. And then my course, I'll link right here if you want to learn how to use Spotify to promote your music as well. If you found this video helpful, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.